when you are simplifying, the 4 is over a denominator of 2, and so is the 2 square root of 3. So remember, from here, you're supposed to break it up and do 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 3 over 2. If you are putting it in simplest form, this is what I expect on the test. So what is 4 divided by 2? 2 plus or minus, and then what happens with the 2's in the second fraction? They do cancel, so y'all should have just gotten 2 plus or minus square root of 3. I think Delta Math might have taken it this way. I don't love that though, because it says simplest form. If you get it here on the test, you'll get half credit, but if it says simplify, you should be putting this answer. Is that a hand raise or are you just stretching? That was a long stretch. Listen, I came back super hyper and refreshed because I slept for like 4 hours yesterday. And what we're talking about today is solving using the most efficient method. So I'm gonna give y'all a second to copy that down. I did have a Math 1 kid ask me the other day when their next notebook check would be. I didn't know if y'all were wondering. It'll be April 15th. It's like a month away. I'm doing it after spring break. That way, if your notebook is not right with the Lord, you can get it there over spring break. Solving by the most efficient method. So we do not have a lot of notes. I always do this concept last because it helps you practice all the different methods again before your test. So solving by the most efficient. Okay, so your notes today, it's not going to be steps. It's not going to be like anything crazy. We're going to make an anchor chart, and then I actually already have it super neat on a poster that I'll hang in the room. People at home, I'm going to take a picture of the poster and I'm going to put it on Canvas for y'all so you can use it during the test, okay? So all we're doing in our notebooks is making this anchor chart, and then we're popping to a worksheet to do examples. Sound good? All right, what are your 4 solving methods? Just start naming them. Square root method, good.
Completing the square.
Yeah, completing the square. Square, wait, what did we say? I heard 2 different things. Yeah, so quadratic formula where you find the discriminant and plug it into our song. Good.
Factoring.
Factoring. Out of those 4, by now, which should be easiest? Do not say quadratic formula because it takes a while. Factoring is the fastest method. By now, you should be able to look at a quadratic, FOIL, figure out some factors, and solve. Quadratic method or quadratic formula, that's really the last one we're going to use, okay? So the first thing we're going to ask ourselves, we're going to make a giant flow map. Y'all know what a flow map is, right? Some of y'all just had flashbacks to middle school. I saw y'all look at each other. Y'all were like, oh, God. I love thinking maps. See all of them back there on my thing? I normally have them all up, but since most of my kids are virtual, I don't. All right, so the first thing you're going to ask yourself, does the quadratic equation factor? And I'm going to teach y'all a trick today to figure out if it does factor really quickly, okay? If the quadratic factors, what do you think we're going to solve by? Factoring, ding, ding, ding. If the answer is yes, you're going to factor. I have a whole lot of colors over here. What if the answer is no? What do you think we'll check next? Close. The order of efficiency is actually the order I taught it to you in. So what did we do next? What did you say, Carter? Square root method. So the next thing you're going to ask yourself, if it will not factor, your second part. Is it in vertex form? Or what's the other thing that could happen when we use square root method? Pay attention, write this down. Oh, come on, y'all. When do we use square root method? If it's in vertex form or if what? You can look back in your notes. Good, L'Oreal. 2 points on your test. Good job, babe. Or if the B is missing. I don't know why I said if. Or the B is missing. If it's in vertex form or the B is missing, what are you going to use? Hot dang, are we paying attention? Hello? Okay, I'm going too fast. Then what should y'all say? Slow down. Jeez. People at home, they said it was too fast. It took them about 10 minutes to say it, but we're going to slow down a little bit. You knuckleheads. All right, did we all write? Okay. If it's in vertex form or the B is missing, what's the fastest method to use? Square root method. Good. So if your answer to this is yes, then we're going to use square root method. Sorry, House. What if the B is not missing or it's not in vertex form? What do we check next? What did you learn after square root method? Completing the square. If your answer to number 2 is no, meaning it's not in vertex form and the B is not missing, then you're going to ask yourself these questions right here. So this is number 3. Is A equal to 1 and B even? And I want to stop there for a second so we can talk about it. Do you guys remember the problem? It was on the lab on Monday, and it was like x squared. No, it was 9x squared plus 17x, and a bunch of y'all tried to complete the square. 9 doesn't go into 17, right? So I told you don't complete the square. You got to get some crazy decimals and fractions. So if the A is 1, meaning you don't have to take out an A, and the B is even, that means we could divide it by 2 and square it, right? That's when you would use completing the square. Or think about our example we just said. If the A will go into the B nicely, right? So, or you can take out A. So A is divisible by B and still even. So I'll give you a second to write. If A equals 1 and B is even, or A is divisible by B and still even, what method should we use? Completing the square. Good, Haley. If your answer is yes, you're going to complete the square. What are we going to do if that doesn't work? If your answer is no, what's the last method we learn? You use quadratic formula pretty much when you can't do any of the other ones. So I know a lot of y'all have liked quadratic formula. So tomorrow when we're going over the review, I might cut you a deal and might let you use it more than you want to. or than I want you to, really. But hopefully by now we're starting to get pretty familiar with completing the square, and it should still be faster than quadratic formula. Don't worry about these eyes down here. That was from doing another problem with a kid. So I'm gonna pause and let y'all finish copying and ask me any recording if y'all are good. So let's look at number 1. I'm gonna do 1 through 5 as examples with y'all. So whenever we're solving any quadratic, what is our first step? Sean, pick your head up before I throw this calculator at you. Don't try me. Today's not the day. We gotta make sure we're all paying attention. Hello, children. What's the first thing you gotta do, no matter what the method is? Equal to 0. Very good. So for number 1, we need to set this equal to 0. Are you guys okay if I move the 3 and the 7x to the left? Is everybody good with that? Okay, so we would add the 7x. Make sure we're doing this with me because you have to turn this in by 11:59 p.m. tonight. And if you don't do these 5, that's on you. Let's go. Add the 7x, and then how would we move the 3?
-3.
Good, Veedy. Subtract the 3 over. I'm just going to put it over here because there's not a whole lot of room right there. It's kind of small. So do y'all agree once we move those, that's going to be 15x squared. Negative 3x plus 7x would be plus 4x, right? Minus 3 equals 0. All right. I'm going to teach y'all a shortcut for factoring. That should make everybody very excited to see if it will factor. Because do y'all see how this is 15? We'd have to go and try 5 and 3, and then we'd also have to go and try 15 and 1, right? So that's a lot of guessing and checking. I don't want you to waste your time guessing and checking and then it not even factor. You get what I'm saying? Do I have all eyeballs? Connor, are you with me, bud? I don't want you guessing and checking if it's not even going to factor. So watch. Here's how you check if a quadratic is factorable. If you do 15 times 3, what does that give you? 45. So everybody remember that. 15 times 3 is 45. Are there any factors of 45 that subtract to give us 4? Yeah, what are they, Chris? 9 and 5. If you subtract 9 and 5, aren't you going to get 4 in the middle? So this is factorable. So again, showing you a shortcut. It doesn't help you factor it, but it'll tell you off the bat, can you factor it? Multiply the first and last. 15 times 3 is 45. So are there any factors of 45 that subtract to give you 4? Yes, it's 9 and 5. Does that make sense? So this should factor. So now let's factor it the way we know how to. So the most efficient method for this one is going to be factoring. If it factors, you always want to go ahead and factor it because we should be pros at factoring by now. All right, what are factors of 15x squared? Good, 5x and 3x, good job. What about factors of 3? 3 and 1. So this one shouldn't be too bad to check because if the 5x and 3x don't work, what am I going to check next? 15 and 1. So there's not too much checking to have to do for this one, okay? I'm going to pause because I see some puzzled faces. People at home, are you guys okay? In class, if you have a question, ask it. At home, babies, are y'all good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going then. So if you break this down, let's try 5x and 3x first. We can put the 3 here and the 1 here. Why did I say that? Talk to me. Huh? Very good, Haley. 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 1 is 5. Didn't we say 9 minus 5 is what gives us 4? So where does the plus sign need to go and where does the minus sign need to go? Good, Henry. Henry said plus sign with the 3's to make the 9 positive since we want a positive 4. Where's the minus sign go? Another one. So I'm also hoping by now we can look at these set them equal to 0 in our head and say the solutions. What would the solutions be? You're close. What kind of 3/5? Negative 3/5. So people at home, if you did 5x plus 3 equals 0 and you solved for x, you would end up with negative 3/5. And if you did 3x minus 1 equals 0 and solved for x, you would get positive 1/3. So these are our two solutions. We should be okay with factoring by now. If you are not, I'm the one doing honors math 2 tutoring today from 3 to 4 over Zoom. You can come in person if you're a car rider. And I also have office hours 4 to 5. Why this is the most efficient method. Somebody from home, so y'all be quiet for a second, give them a chance. Why is this the most efficient method? Yikes. Go ahead, Beatty. I'm singing Jeopardy. Hello. Why is factoring most efficient? Look at your flow map. They aren't allowed to answer. They looking at y'all like y'all foolish. I'm looking at you that way too. I'm gonna give them 3 more seconds.
Because the quadratic equation can factor.
Period. Good job, Soraya. Y'all, if factoring is the most efficient method, you say because it can factor. That's it. Factoring, why? Because it can factor. That should be the fastest way. If it can factor, you're going to use factoring. Very good. Extra credit, Soraya. Good job, babe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did I scare you with my period, Jordan? My boy was like, yikes. All right, number 2. What do we need to do to solve any kind of quadratic? Set it. There we go. Set it equal to 0. Did y'all subtract the 6? Okay. Now, for this one, I am thinking that it's probably going to factor. Does somebody want to say why?
6 can go into 18.
And
6.
not 6. And 24. Good. Everybody look. If the A value will go into the B and the C, usually it factors, okay? So I'm teaching you some tricks. You may want to write that down. That's up to you. We'll go over it again tomorrow. But this 6 will go into the B and the C. So when I take 6 out, y'all, what's going to be left in the parentheses? N squared. Minus 3n, good Henry. Minus 4, good Hales. Equals 0. Now, y'all look in those parentheses. Can you factor that quadratic? Yes. Everybody should be saying yes. So people at home, as a review, factors of n squared is just n and n, right? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, making sure we're on. There we go. All right, factors of 4. 2 and 2, 4 and 1. Which set will subtract to give us 3? 4 and 1. So we should be doing n times n, 4 and 1. And which one needs to be negative if we want a negative 3? The 4. Very good, y'all. So then you set both of those equal to 0. So what are my 2 solutions? Ooh, not negative 4.
4 and negative 1.
There we go. Good job, Soraya. So my people at home, several of you have told me in Zooms that you feel like you don't get a chance to speak up and participate in class. So that's why I'm talking to y'all a lot today. I used the word get. I think the correct verb was try. Maybe. Don't try to speak up. Because Soraya's trying. She's doing it. Viti does it too. All right. Most efficient method was what? Factoring. What would be your explanation? Because you will have to explain on the test. It's factorable. That's it. You can literally say factorable. You can say one word. It doesn't say respond in a complete sentence. Factorable. Period. Poo. That's it. Factorable. Boom. Do we feel like we can factor? Awesome. Anybody at home have questions on 1 and 2? I'm gonna give y'all a second. No? Who said no?
Me.
Yay, we got some participation. All right. What do you always do first to solve a quadratic? Set it equal to 0. So I'm gonna add the 10 over. So what is that gonna give me on the left? 2m squared minus 7m minus 3. Okay. All right, remember the shortcut I taught you to see if it'll factor. So I hope we're all paying attention. If you guys do 2 times 3, what does that give you? Are there any factors of 6 that subtract to make 7? No, pay attention to your signs. Factors of 6. 6 and 1 would make 7 if we were adding, but what are we doing here? Subtracting. If you do 6 minus 1, that should be a 5. So is this one gonna factor? Nope. So here's where we go through our flow map. You can look in your notes if you want, or you can just listen to me and look at me. You ready? I'm gonna take you through the steps. It doesn't factor. So now we're looking, is it in vertex form or is the B missing? Neither of those, because you've got an AX squared, a BX, and a C, right? So we can't do that. What's the third thing we check for? Completing the square. So I want you guys to look at the quadratic they gave us because we got to be able to explain this on the test. There's a 2 out front, which means when you're completing the square, you would eventually have to take the 2 out, right? Can you take the 2 out and get a nice number on the inside? No, 7 is not divisible by 2, so completing the square isn't going to work either. What do we do for this problem? Quadratic formula. So most efficient method would be quadratic formula. I'm not going to write the explanation, but let's talk about it. Why did we pick quadratic formula? Yes, 7 is not divisible by 2. B is not divisible by A, so you can't complete the square. And it's also not factorable, and it's also not in vertex form. Very good. So you can pretty much say nothing else works. I'm dead serious. You type nothing else works, I'll give it to you because you're right. You're not wrong, okay? The big thing, though, is that it's not factorable and B is not divisible by A. So let's remember our quadratic formula. What do you find first? The discriminant, I think I heard people say. So that means we need to do B squared minus 4AC. Good job, y'all. And remember, do it from your standard form. So we're using this pink equation right here. Don't go back to the beginning and say the C is 13 because it's not. What's B squared going to give me? 49 minus 4. Do y'all agree that A is 2? And the C is -3? Everybody okay there? Okay. I copy down the 49 minus and then just look at these because the ADHD is real and I will mess up a sign. So that's the way I do it. So I'm going to do 4 times 2, which is 8. 8 times -3 would be -24. And if I do 49 minus a -24, what happens when you do minus a negative? Good. Plus a positive. So 49 plus 24 is just 73. 73? Okay. If I am going too fast, I need you to let me know. People at home, I can't see y'all, so that's especially for y'all. I'm watching y'all's pencils. Connor, you okay, babe? Okay. All right, we know the discriminant is 73, so now, y'all, we just have to do -B plus or minus square root, put that discriminant in, and what does it go over? To what? To A. So -B, it's already a -7. So do y'all agree that's going to be positive now? Okay, plus or minus square root 73 over 2 times 2, which is 4. Now this is a nice one. 73 is prime. So can you simplify that square root? No, so all you have to do on your test is type in 7 plus square root of 73 over 4, and then 7 minus square root of 73 over 4, and those are your two solutions. Why did we get two real answers? Because what was positive? The discriminant. Good job, boys. Extra credit, all three of you. Excellent work. All right, I'm gonna pause. Does anybody, these are my freaking fave. Yes, I said freaking, whatever, however you want to say it. These are the best because if you set number 4 equal to 0, what do we got, y'all? 5x squared minus 115 equals 0. What kind of quadratic is this? It's a binomial. What's missing? The b. So this is going to be what method? Square root method. These are the easiest ones. What would be your explanation?
The
B
B
is
is
missing.
missing.
Yeah, b is missing. It's a binomial, period. That's it. So I think this method threw a lot of you at first, but now that we've done other more challenging ones, it shouldn't be too bad. When you're doing square root method, what are you trying to get by itself? The squared part, the x squared, right? So everybody remember us doing this? Cover up the squared part. What do we need to move? The 115, so let's add it back over. So this is 5x squared equals 115. And what do you do now to get x squared by itself?
You divide it by 5.
Very good. Listen to that. Divide by 5. I have no idea what that is off the top of my head. Is it 23?
Yeah, it's 23.
It is. Well, we know VD's right. Did you type it in your calculator?
Yep.
You know I love you. All right, x squared is 23. How do you find out what x is? Square root it, and anytime we take a square root, how many answers are we going to get? Good. So you can have positive, good, 2, positive square root of 23, or negative square root of 23. And you can type it in just like that on your test. Square root method ones should be the second easiest compared to factoring. Those are the ones that shouldn't be a whole lot of work. Do we feel like we could get to a quadratic where it's in vertex form or the b is missing and you could tell me you would use square root method? I hope. Okay. Any questions at home before we do number 5? And then I'm going to turn y'all loose. Anytime I say that, I feel like I'm talking to puppies. All right. Okay, number 5. It's already set equal to 0. How nice was that? Jake's like, thank you, Miss Poole. You're welcome, Jake. All right, let's see if it will factor, because look at the a value. Does 2 go into 16? Does 2 go into 40? So I'm thinking it should factor. I'm hoping y'all know my voice by now and you know I don't talk that slow. It actually doesn't factor, but let's try it. I want to just show you. So you can just watch. You don't need to write this down. You can just watch. If you take out the 2, are there any factors of 20 that would add to give you 8? Not subtract, add. The factors of 20 are 10 and 2. 10 plus 2 is 12. Doesn't work. And then 5 and 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. That's not 8. So there's no factors of 20 that will add to give me 8. So factoring will not work. So negative 10 plus negative 2 is negative 12. You're good. You're fine. There's no factors of 20 that will add to give you 8. 5 plus 4 is 9. Even if they're negative, it's negative 9. 10 plus 2 is 12. So it does not factor. So let's think about our flow map. Second thing you check, can you do square root method? Why not? I'm seeing head no's. Why not? Good, not in vertex form, and there's a B, so we can't do square root method. What do you check next? Completing the square. And this is the one where we're struggling, but y'all look at that A value. Does 2 go into 16? You can complete the square. So people at home, do y'all see the thought process? Are you listening? Doesn't factor. It's not in vertex form. The B is not missing, so you can't do square roots. And then look at this. We're checking for completing the square now. 2 does go into 16. So we can complete the square, and this is the one a lot of you need review on, so let's make sure we're paying attention, asking questions. First step of completing the square is to do what? Move the what? Good, move the constant. So does everybody agree we're gonna subtract 40? All right. Even if you don't like completing the square, it is faster than quadratic formula, and there's less simplifying at the end. After you move the C, what is our next step? Take out the A. Now listen, my people at home, I can't see y'all. There's some people in class, they're looking puzzled. Don't y'all have these 6 steps written out in your notebook? So when you get to one on the test that says complete the square, turn in your notebook and follow the steps, okay? Y'all have an advantage, whereas kids in years past have not. Once you take out the A, we're trying to turn it into a perfect square trinomial. So I want y'all just look, I took out the 2, that means that's negative 8A, right? A lot of you did really good with this last week, but we haven't done it in a few days. So I'm making sure we're good. You okay, Keydrin? Okay. All right, Jaden's not up here, but this is Jaden's shortcut. What's 8 divided by 2? What's 4 squared? So we need to put a 16 right here to make this a perfect square trinomial. And now I'm gonna go ahead and finish on this side because I have a lot of you messing up on this next part too. So everybody look, if this is a perfect square trinomial, the back number should be a perfect square. What is the square root of 16? 4, and look at the 8. It was what kind of 4? Negative. So listen, I'm gonna draw it out for some of you that are still struggling. That means this can break up into A minus 4, A minus 4. And if you have 2 of them, how do you write that? Very good, A minus 4 squared. Now just remember there was a 2 out front. I wanted to make sure we all were okay with that. So I'm gonna pause for a second and see if there's any questions. Guessing that's a yes. All right, babies, look. What did you really add to the left-hand side? It is not 16. 32. Very good. Look, you added 2 times 16, which is 32. So what's negative 40 plus 32? Negative 8. Good job, Jake. And from here, it's just square root method because look, this is vertex form. So if we're using square root method, how do we get the squared part by itself? What do I need to move first? Divide the 2. Good, Henry. So get rid of this 2. So do y'all agree that would be 8 minus 4 squared equals negative 4? Chris, you okay, babe? How do you undo squaring something? Square root, both sides. What's the square root of 4? 2, but since it's negative, what kind of 2 is it? Imaginary. Sean, get off your phone. Good God. Imaginary 2. Is everybody good? All right, so do y'all agree this is A minus 4 equals plus or minus imaginary 2? And then how do we get A by itself? Add the 4. Good, Carter. Now, Carter, where should you probably write the 4? Yes, before the plus or minus, just so y'all don't get confused on the test with like what should go where. I would put it in front. And you are going to leave it like that. And I'm going to make sure my kids at home understand this because some of y'all, I think, missed this part maybe. You cannot add a real 4 and an imaginary 2. So you're going to leave it. That is not 6i and negative 2i or 6i and 2i. You can't do that. A real 4 cannot be added to an imaginary 2 or subtracted, so you just leave it. What questions do we have on most efficient method? 12 noon tomorrow.
Test review.
Test review, you should have already been working on it. Yesterday, all you had was 13 problems. You should have started that test review. Okay, if you haven't, that's fine. You have 5 problems today. You should be able to do that now in these 15 minutes and then start your test review. I'm going to stay on Zoom if anybody has questions. If not, y'all are free to go.